What's up, World Summit Fitness? Today we're talking about the cure to your shoulder pain. Let's get right into it. So before I continue with the video, the whole big disclaimer here is I'm not your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I'm your doctor's doctor. I always say that. And then in terms of your physical therapist, I'm not your physical therapist either. So whoever you consult with in regards to your health information and health wealth in your journey, you listen to them. I'm just a guy behind the screen. But if you want to follow these words of advice, follow them. So in my experience, right, with all athletes of any kind, hanging has been working for centuries, for years. I've been implementing it in my practice with my clients and myself for about 5 years now. And it works on everybody. That's my anecdote. And if you don't have anecdotes as a health practitioner, then you got to keep practicing, right? That's kind of what we say in the health field. Anyways, I want to put this video out here because there's just a lot of calisthenic practitioners out there and just bodyweight athletes who tend to suffer a lot from shoulder pain. But even prior, before I use this on the bodyweight athletes, I've used it with a lot of basketball players, a lot of overhead sports such as baseball, and working with quarterbacks in the past. So I've found that when most of the time when people have a rotator cuff tear, when people have an impingement, majority of a lot of shoulder issues are handled by hanging. So I put a video on this in the past on YouTube. If you're watching this on Instagram, you know, I'll put the name of the title. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description. I practiced this hanging routine many times. I've shared it in the past, so watch that video and let me show you exactly what I mean on the different styles of hanging. So if I bring you right over here, let's see. All right, so the first style of hanging that you want to do, just get yourself a straight bar, okay? That's all you really need. You don't need nothing extra. Don't even get on the gymnastic rings, but if that is what you do have, all right, use it. You're hanging off of a straight bar passively. Now what I mean by passively is that none of your muscles are engaged. The only thing that's really working is just your hands to hold you uptight. That's a passive hang, okay? So I'm gonna show you from the front view right here. This is a passive hang. Note that my ears are next to my shoulders. All right, that's the passive hang. It's very relaxed. I'll show you from the back side. Okay, so if you're somebody that's extremely tight in the upper extremities, kind of like the keyboard desk warrior, you want to go for passive hangings where you get a nice big stretch across the entire region from the chest, pectorals, the clavicles to the thoracic spine. If you are somebody who's injured and has some real funky shoulder pains, majority of the athletes who are bodyweight trainees experience shoulder pain tremendously. And this is because we favor a lot of exercises. We give a lot of favoritism to muscle ups, we give a lot of favoritism to pushing. So I'm more of a pull guy. So here's what you do. You're gonna actively hang now. The active hang is quite literally just activating the muscles in the back. And I'm holding this posture. Note that now my head is no longer next to my shoulders. I am actively hanging. I'll show you from the back side. So what you want to notice there is when I'm actively hanging, we call this the scap hang, right? That's the term. Your scap hang is going to be critical into the healing of your shoulder region. Here's what you're going to do. Designate a time. It could start off with 4 minutes and accumulate 4 minutes in as many or as little sets as possible. Truth be told, I enjoy the frequency. So if you're here for 15 seconds and you can obviously hold maybe a minute or 2 minutes, do 15 seconds. You don't have to treat this like a workout. What you want to do is re-educate the shoulder to once again re-engage and stabilize. Because the shoulder has 360 range of motion, this axis is huge. It can go almost anywhere, right? And so it can get easily injured. Let's say you start off with your 4 minutes, yeah? Accumulate 4 minutes again in as many or as little sets as possible. And then the next day you can do 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and you want to keep working your way up until maybe 7 minutes or 10 minutes total throughout the span of a day. You're going to be doing this for quite some time, but you have to dedicate yourself. I learned this routine originally actually from Steve Maxwell, which was then abbreviated into like an Ido Portal method, which was then spoken about in many circles of like martial arts. Truth be told, one of the originators that I read the book from was a guy named Dr.John M. Kirsch. So I'll put the link in the description and the reference and all that there. You can check it out yourself. That's where I learned this hanging cure material. Now, you want to do this for about maybe 30 days or so, or to a month. So with that being said, while you're going through your hanging practice, be diligent, mark down the days, and if you miss one day, it's not horrible. But the reason I'm giving you this information is because it's going to save you a lot of probably pointless time in maybe doing surgery. You probably shouldn't do surgery. It's the last thing you want to do. Dr. Stuart McGill, the guy who's the ultimate back cure man, speaks about surgery being one of the last things you want to do. So here are a couple of nuances. In between your hanging sets, while you're hanging, implement some extra movements. You can clasp your hands behind you, do some shoulder rolls, activate the posterior chain of the upper body. The second maneuver you could do, you go here, roll the shoulders back, point the thumbs out, and make this T position like so. That movement helps tremendously, so you could do that a lot in between your hanging sets as well. Joel Canela, it's Showtime Jay and I, we've done this plenty of times in between our sets. Before we even came to actually train, we would already be hanging. We would already have done a warm-up, and I would always come to Jailhood Park and he'd be hanging or I'd be there hanging, and we would say to each other, yo, how many minutes are you in? Dude, I'm already like 15 minutes in, and it's just been hanging, mind you. So what hanging also does is, of course, it's going to increase the grip strength. It's going to increase your forearm capabilities, which is going to help you overall with all your pushing goals. So all your pushing and pulling, to be exact. Because once again, the shoulder is the engine for a calisthenic athlete. So you want to keep them healthy. Here's another thing that you could do in between your sets of hanging. All right, so outside of those other two bodyweight exercises that I showed you, you could also just work on doing Ys, Ts, and Ws. Now, they're not the sexiest exercises in the world, but at the end of the day, they do really help tremendously. And the reason why they do help is because they aren't touched upon enough. And what you want to do when you're usually injured is avoid the exercises that cause pain. So majority of the times, if you suffered from shoulder pain and you're doing dips, and dips hurt like crazy, stop doing dips. Alleviate yourself from the favoritism of exercises. Stop doing muscle ups, stop doing 100,000 push-ups. Your shoulder is jacked, so you want to avoid the exercises that are hurting your shoulder. Referring back to It's Showtime Jay, Joel Canela, my boy, he has a very good video on YouTube where he's demonstrating these exercises with gymnastic rings, so I'll also put that in the description. When you do your Ys, Ts, and Ws, make sure your arms are straight. So again, you don't turn this into you're beating up your body. Think of it as a practice, okay? You are here to send blood flow to the joint. You're here to get the joint moving, pain-free, and you also want to approach this very, very intelligently, okay? If you are gonna start training, you wanna at least, my recommendation, have a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 pulling exercises, 1 pushing exercise. Preferably that pushing exercise does not cause a tremendous amount of pain. We want no pain at all. So that's a very wise maneuver that you want to do. Another fact that I want to give, another just word of advice is, if you're hurt and you're doing these hanging routines, or if you're just hurt in general, Trust in the hands of an ART specialist, a deep tissue specialist, sports massage. I used to work with a guy named Paul Watson and Dr. Carlos Aponte back in the States. These two gentlemen are built like freaking mountains, and they help tremendously with old injuries and just tuning me up and keeping me strong. So one of the best things that you can also just be mindful of is taking the time to already do those things, even if you're not injured, because preventative measures is the best medicine at the end of the day. So even if you're not injured, treat yourself, because your body is your temple. Approach your calisthenic practice and you're gonna do, let's say, your pull-ups or your chin-up game. Preferably go for the neutral grip, which would be essentially going sideways, okay? Go for supinated, which would be this way. Avoid pronated. Avoid the pronated grip because that usually tends to do a little bit more stress on the shoulders. So I'm gonna show you that one more time in just real action, okay? All right, so there's your little complete guide to the shoulder cure. Avoid exercises that hurt. Go for a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 pulls, 1 push. Hang for 30 days in a row as best as you can. After that, don't stop hanging, keep hanging, okay? What's gonna happen is during your hanging process, you're gonna find that you create a whole bunch of stability within the shoulder region, and that the joints start to hurt less and less and less. You start creating more space and you start feeding the tissues, and all these good things happen if you let it. Another key factor I would say is work on your upper thoracic mobility. Watch your neck posture. When it comes to doing your pull-ups, people tend to do a big like goose neck, trying to force that last rep, and they try to get their chin and their throat over the bar. Avoid that with your chin-ups, avoid that with your muscle-ups. And that's pretty much it. I really do hope that these exercises help. When it comes to the Y's, T's, and the W's, and you're doing those in between your sets, or any of the shoulder rollbacks or these T's, sets of 12 to 15 reps are fine. And you don't always have to do them every time you come out of a hanging position. You do them as you go. So set that timer. Every time you get on the bar hanging, start that timer so it goes down, complete the allotted amount of time. The goal is essentially to get to accumulating 10 minutes total throughout the span of a day, and you can do that for, you know, as long as you want to do it, as long as you live. If you're a human, hanging generally tends to help tremendously. Now, there are other ways that you can fix yourself. There are other ways that you can work through this. You also don't even have to listen to me, but I give you these tips because I've used them with great results and great experience. So, Summit Fitness, peace and blessings.